Hi everybody, Brett from Astartes Gaming here with part 1 of a new tutorial series I plan on doing that'll teach you everything you need to know to start modding Arma 3. First thing we're going to need is a couple of tools that I've got right here. The first being Eliteness, which is a Pbo extractor and compiler. I'll post this link in the description for you guys. And you're also going to need TextView 2, which is this one right here. You can find it at this link, and again I'll post this as well. Do not use the one on Armaholic. It's out of date as far as I know, and it will cause you problems later on. So make sure you're using the most up-to-date version of both, which should be on these two links here. So that being said, make sure you download and install those, and let's get started. So we're going to do a retexture of the independent soldier first, which is the uniform this guy's wearing here. We're going to do a couple different variants. We're going to do the basic one, this rolled up sleeve one you see here, and then we're going to do one where he's wearing a t-shirt that's going to take a little bit more advanced scripting just to kind of whet your guys' appetite. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go to Arma 3 in our Steam library, go to Properties, Local Files, and then Browse Local Files. If you are running Arma 3 outside of Steam, you're going to need to go into your program files and track down your Arma 3 directory. The file inside Arma 3 we're looking for is going to be add-ons. And then here you can see all the third-party mods I've installed. We're going to ignore those and go down to Character F Beta. Excuse me. Characters F is going to have most of the Blue 4, NATO, and OT4 stuff. We're not going to need that for now. We're just going to grab the independent uniform out of Characters F Beta. So what you can try doing with Eliteness is sometimes it'll let you go up to open with and open it with Eliteness and do it that way. Mine tends to want to crash when I do that, so I'm going to do this the hard way. And I'll show you guys just in case. So open up Eliteness, go to Open, this little folder here. Then we're going to go to let's see here, Steam Apps, Common, Arma 3, Add-ons, and right back to where we just were, Characters F Beta. Then we're going to open, and it'll ask us if we want to extract it. We do. It'll load for a second, and then we're done. So you can close Eliteness now. Back in your add-ons folder, scroll up to the very, if you don't have any mods, it'll be at the very top. If you have mods in here, it'll probably be just under them, so you can see it's right here. We're gonna cut this. Do not close this folder. We're gonna be back in here later, so just minimize it for now. And we'll get Steam out of the way. And let's see, I'm gonna do this from my previous take, paste the new folder here. Now we're going to open this up, click through these folders. We're going to want the independent one. These are all the models for the independent gear here. Anything that's .p3d is going to be a model in Arma 3. We don't need to worry about that right now. We're going to go into the data, which is going to have all the different textures. As you can see, there are a lot of different variants of each texture here, and what these are, this CO denotes the actual texture, the no HQ denotes the normal map, and the AS, the SMDI, sorry, and the TICA are going to handle things like specularity and stuff that we don't need to worry about until we're doing RV mats. Which will be in a later episode. So for now, we're actually only going to worry about the no HQ, which I'm going to pull the right one, not the vest. So that's this one here. And if we double click, now that we have TextView 2, it'll open up in TextView 2, and we can file, save as, and we'll save it as a PNG. So now we can open this up in, I'm going to be using GIMP, but Photoshop works just as well, obviously. So let's cut this, and we're done here, and we'll paste this on the desktop. Now I'm going to open up this nice little template I made in GIMP. and I'll be posting this for you guys as well as excuse me, along with all of the other files and stuff I make in this video, so you guys can pick through them yourselves and see how I did it. So we want this open, and then we're going to drag this guy in here, and just my luck, it didn't drop centered. So what we need to do is center this, and if it'll let me, we want to do it to the image, and that doesn't seem to want to work. So let's select all, try it again. That doesn't seem to want to do it either. So what can we do here? Relative to the first item, maybe. No? I'm not sure why that doesn't want to cooperate. Well, there's another way we can do this. Oops. Let's go ahead and delete this layer. We will open this in GIMP. Select all. Cut. Close this. And not that one, this one. And then we will paste it. And that looks centered now. So we'll add this to a new layer. Drop it under the overlay. And now we've got sort of a texture here, but it's a weird purple-blue. So the first thing we're going to do is desaturate it. So make sure you've got your normal map selected. Go to Colors, Desaturate. I prefer Luminosity because it gives you a little bit better contrast, but use whichever one you feel gives you the best results. We'll hit OK. Then I'm going to go to Colors, Brightness, Contrast, and we're going to darken this all the way to -80 and bump the contrast up to 60. And that's going to give us a real dark, contrasty image. And then we'll hit OK. Now we need to select a camouflage. Let's see, I've got one picked out already. So I'm just going to drag and drop that in there. Just about any camouflage will work. If it's a photograph of camouflage, it usually tends to not work that well because you've got lighting gradients. So generally you want something that's a digital image and not like a photograph of fabric, because you'll have it like say a darker corner or lighter corner, and when you try to line the edges up, there'll be a noticeable difference. So we're just going to use this one here. I'm going to scale it up quite a bit though, so I think that looks like a pretty good size. Yeah, I think that looks okay. So let's zoom out a little bit more. Then we'll move this so that it covers the pants. If I were doing this for a mod or something I was going to release, I would go through and actually do the two pant legs as separate layers, because you can see this pant leg has a certain angle to it and this one's got a slightly different angle to it. Also, this one's upside down compared to that one. So the camouflage should be flipped, but for now we're just going to drop this right here. And actually I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just for the sake of simplicity. So we'll do that. And then I'm going to move this up a little bit, and we'll leave it right about there. And then I'm going to duplicate this. Take the other one, actually we'll take the top one, and move it to here. Let's see, we're going to have to do a couple of these. Put it right there so that the seam doesn't show on the arm. And then we'll duplicate this one more time and move it over once again and drop it right there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. But as you can see, there's a noticeable seam right here on the pants where the two layers meet. So what I'm going to do is merge these two top ones, and then the one that's here, or sorry, now we're going to use the combined bottom ones, and we're going to erase a bit of it so that they don't overlap, or at least not visibly. So I'm going to bump the brush up to about 100, and that gives me a pretty good sized brush here. And we'll make sure this is selected, and then we'll go through and just erase this so that there isn't that awkward line there. If you're using a camo sample that's tileable, you can usually avoid this pretty well. This one may or may not have been. I just kind of threw it on there very quickly, obviously. So we're just going to take care of all this. And I mean, obviously, if you're doing this for something that you're actually going to use, you want to spend a little bit more time than I am. I'm just trying to do this very quickly to show you guys how I do it. I will spend a lot more time on it than this generally. I'm also going to erase the camouflage behind here. One thing with doing camouflage on things is that sometimes less is more. There are I see a lot of retextures that look like the unit just had like camouflage thrown up on it. You don't want the entire thing 100% covered in camo, especially with things like vests and helmets where there's a lot of small pieces and equipment on them. With those, you generally want the big flat areas covered in camo, and then the rest you kind of want to, leave like a green or a tan, and it'll add a lot more interesting detail to your retexture. I'm gonna have to swap to the other layer in a second here and finish this. So we'll just do this real quick. Jump to this one. Get the tops of that and the top of this. And there's actually a little bit of both on that. Okay, and then we'll merge these down. Now, what we're going to do here is go to Layer, Transparency, and Color to Alpha. And I usually have this set on a nice like middle gray tone. You can play with this slightly, and it'll affect how transparent your texture becomes. For camouflages with white in them especially, you're going to have to play with this quite a bit because the white will become transparent before the darker parts. But for most standard camouflages, somewhere right in the middle of the grays is a pretty good spot to start. So we'll hit OK. And then you see this gets like this real dark, ugly, transparent color. And so what we're going to do now is go back to our normal map down here, and this is how we're going to adjust the darkness of it. So now we can tweak this however we like, and the camo will stay its true colors, and we can adjust the brightness underneath it. So I'm going to bump this up to, that looks pretty good, maybe 84. We'll do that there. And then one nice little trick I like to do with this is once you've got this set where you like it, go to Filter, Artistic, and Cartoon. And if you set this, the default's usually 7. I usually go 3 or 4, so somewhere about halfway. This will blacken the darker tones and make the little lines where the stitching is really pop. I'll show you that right now. You see now it's much more noticeable. This has a much more like rough, fabric-y feel to it. And so that's pretty close. I mean, I would obviously go through and do more of the detail if this were something I was going to use outside of a tutorial. But for now, I think this is okay. So let's see if we're good. Let's go ahead and save. Always save this as a separate thing so that if you need to make any changes, you can go back and work on the actual layers and not have to just work on a flat PNG image. That's a real bummer if you forget to do that. So we're going to go ahead and export to custom camo co.png. I'll do this a long way. So just like in the base game files, we're going to designate this as the texture by using the CO, and we're going to call it custom camo. So we're going to just export it to the desktop. I've already got an older copy of it there, so we're going to hit replace. You obviously won't need to do that. Compression level, all this, this is fine. Just leave it as is and hit export. By the way, I will be posting this. I think I said that already. I'm going to post this along with the files I'm going to produce, and all these little details are separate layers, so you can add them or change them as you like. So yeah, let's get these out of the way. Now we've got our texture here, and what we want to do with this is open it in TextView 2, and we're going to convert this back to a PAA file and hit save, because the game can't read this as a PNG. It won't know what to do with it, so we're going to put it back in a format it can recognize. It's going to take a bit because this is pretty high res. We'll hit close, and here it is here. So now let me get these older versions out of the way, and we're going to make a new folder that's eventually going to become our Pbo file. So we'll call it custom uniform, I believe is what I was using. Yeah, custom uniform. Open it up, and inside we're going to make a new folder called data. And so any textures that you include in here, you're going to put in your data file. You can call this something else if you want. I'm going to use this. So if you decide to use something else, make sure you change the file paths in the config I'm about to show you. So let's take this and we'll drop it in here. And now we're going to need one other thing. It's going to be in here. Oh, sorry, that's the same one. Let's see, I believe I had one. I'll just steal it from one of my other ones, I guess. So we'll take this and paste it. And then we're going to convert this as well. You guys won't be needing to do this. This is just for one of the other variants of the uniform I'm going to show you. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can dig through the civilian textures and find this t-shirt and do a retexture of it. But it's going to be included in the mod files I post, so don't worry about it. And we'll call it t-shirt. Oops. I need to learn how to spell. T-shirt brown. There we go again. Brown CO. I'm typing around my microphone, so this is kind of tricky. And then we need that back open. We're going to drag that into the data file as well. Now we're going to open up this config that I pre-wrote, and I'll walk you through it real quickly. This just defines the mod. This here defines your faction. So this display name is what it'll show up as in the menus. Obviously, you're probably going to want to change that. Priority is where it ends up in the leveled list. So, for example, Blue 4, you're going to have NATO. I think you have like FIA. And so we'll be 3, which will put us, third on the list. And then your side, I've got all the different options here. I think civilian is 3. I'm not sure on that. I haven't made a civilian faction yet. But Op 4 0, Blue 4 1, Independence 2. We're Blue 4, so we're 1. If you want to do a custom icon that'll show up in the menu, you put the file path to it here. If you're going to do that, I would add another folder in your mod file called UI and put all the icons and menu pictures in there just to keep it organized. And I'll probably do that in a later video for you guys. So now we have the actual units. And so these aren't the uniforms, these are the men wearing them. For every one of these, you're going to have a separate configure down here that is the uniform that he's going to be wearing. And so I have just the basic guy who's going to be using the model, the independent uniform, Soldier 01, which is going to be the the full camo fatigues with a long sleeve. This is going to be the same thing, but Soldier 02 is going to be the fatigues with the sleeves rolled up. And then this one here is one of the guerrilla uniforms that uses the fatigue pants and then a t-shirt. And so I'll show you why that one gets a little bit trickier, because it's actually going to pull 2 different textures instead of just one, which is why I have that other one in there. So the display name, you're probably going to want to change that as well. I've got, custom soldier, custom team leader, custom combat lifesaver. You can set those to whatever you like. It won't hurt anything. As far as the classes go, these classes here, these all need to correspond to these down here. And same goes for the class names here. These all need to correspond to the class names in here. So you can think of it as sort of like an X. The top of this one goes into the bottom of that one. Top of this one goes into the bottom of that one. As long as they match up, everything should be fine. Then down here, we have our hidden selections. So just camo. That's all we need. And then the insignia is going to allow us to, in the virtual arsenal, it'll let you put patches on the sleeves and things like that for the models that support it. And then hidden selections texture is the file path to our camouflage. And as you can see right here, I've got custom uniform, data, custom camo, CO. You'll notice this one, it uses the exact same one. So you're getting 2 uniforms for one texture there. Same thing, camo insignia. And then we've got the, weapons. If you want the unit to spawn with weapons, you put them here. Use the class names in there. Make sure you leave throw and put. That lets them throw grenades and put down explosives. If you don't have those, they won't be able to do it. Magazine, respawn magazine if you want, ammo, grenades, smoke shells, chem lights, things like that. And then linked items are going to be helmets, vests, and then maps, compasses, things like that, obviously, from what's listed here. So now to the t-shirt one. This is using the Gorilla model, as I said before. And you can see in the hidden selections here, there's actually a camo 1 and a camo 2. And then in hidden selection textures, there's 2 file paths listed. So what this is doing is it's pulling the t-shirt texture from this and the pants texture from that. And there's a lot of these. Almost all the vehicles are going to use more than one hidden selection. Quite a few of the uniforms do too, especially with the Gorilla faction. They use quite a lot of those. And the tricky thing is you don't always know which one is which. With the uniforms, it's usually the shirt, then the pants, or basically top to bottom. And then the vehicles are generally front to back, but that's not always true 100% of the time. So it will take a little bit of experimenting on your part to figure those out sometimes. And that's basically all we need there. I've already got this pre-written for what it needs to have. Then I've got the uniform ones down here. The display name, this is for the actual item. This display name is for the soldier. So the custom combat lifesaver is wearing the custom camo t-shirt. This picture is for the UI in the menus. The model is just referencing the model again. This uniform class, as I said, is referencing the one above it. Then you've got container class, which is going to determine the capacity of that uniform. So you can see the ones with the actual military shirts, I have it 50. The one with just the t-shirt, I have it only 30 because there's no pockets on the t-shirt. But I've also got the mass slightly lower, where the mass of these uniforms is slightly more. These are pretty close to the default. You may want to tweak them, but they should be more or less spot on. I think the supply might be just slightly higher. And then I've also got a vest configure in here for you too if you want to add a vest. I'll go into greater detail on these later, but I've got this here just in case you've already got one made that you want to include. The model is referencing the NATO vest, or one of the variants of the NATO vest. If you want to change that, you'll need to go to back to the character F. Where do we put it? Characters F beta. Go in here, independent, and you'll want to use one of these as your class name, or as your model, sorry. And that is about it. So let's go ahead and compile this all and put it into the game and see if it works, which it should because I just tested it. So copy custom uniform, and we'll just paste this right in here, right next to our data file. we'll close this. Now everything we need is in this. What we're going to do is go to Eliteness, hide all this, and we're going to go to our desktop. So you're going to go to the bottom, Users, that's me there, Desktop, and you actually want to click it, don't open it. And then we're looking for, actually no, we do need to open it, sorry. Go down to Custom Uniform, right click, Create PBO. And there were no errors, that's good. And now we've got a PBO file here. If you're going to be doing quite a lot of these, I recommend getting Pbo Manager. So you can see when I right click this, I can go down to Pbo Manager and just pack it, and that'll save me quite a bit of time. It just backed it up here, but it would have made another one of these had this not been here. So we're going to cut this now, cut our PBO file, and go back to the add-ons folder where we started. And then, let's see, I'm going to delete this and start over so you guys can see me do it. Make a new folder, and we're going to call it @custom uniform. And you can call this one whatever you like. It's not going to affect your file paths at all. But you will need to know what it's called in order to activate the mod. Then inside of it, we're going to add another new folder called add-ons. And then drop our PBO file in there. If you don't add the add-ons folder, if you put the PBO file directly in this one, it's not going to be able to read it. Okay. And so now we have everything done that we need to for the mod to work. We just need to activate it. So there's 2 ways to do that. Well, 3. You can upload to Play with 6 and do it that way. I'm not going to do it that way. I don't use that website. I do use the Arma 3 launcher. I've got a link for it for you guys on Armaholic right here. I'll post this. And so if you were to do that, you just open it, menu, new, click whichever one. It would be here, add, or whichever other mods you want, add them over here and hit done. I've already got it pre-done here. But if you don't want to do it that way, if you don't want any launchers or anything, you want to go to any Armaholic mod will have this listed. Copy this little bit of text here. If you're doing more than one mod, you'll need to do a couple of these at the end. But we're just going to do the first one, copy this, go to your Steam, back to the Arma 3 properties, then set launch options, and you'll paste this, and then change this to custom uniform, or whatever you decided to call it, and make sure you close it with a semicolon. And then that'll launch it that way. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it with the launcher. So custom uniform, launch. Sometimes it won't work the first time, so we'll see if it does this time. Sometimes it'll appear clear, and then when you close the game and reopen it, it'll show up. So we'll see if it does that again. Loading. So when you check your textures, you're going to want to do it in 2 places. First, you'll probably want to check it in the virtual arsenal under the Learn tab. You can't trust the lighting in this though. The colors are going to show up much more saturated than they otherwise normally would be. So if you think you're done, make sure you check it in the editor as well, because it can look slightly different than in this little virtual world here. I'm going to get rid of all the little extra things so we can just look at the uniform here. And there we go. So you've got your custom camo uniform, which is just the basic fatigues. You can see that the cartoon filter really helped make the lines pop, which is nice, because if you just throw camouflage on here, a lot of times those will disappear, and then it just looks like he's wearing like shapeless camouflage pants. Then we've got the rolled up sleeves. You may want to, in your texture, do these slightly lighter or remove the camouflage, just so you can actually tell that that's rolled up. And then we've got the t-shirt. And there we go. Actually, I'll show you one more thing. Because we added the insignia selection, you can see now the patches will be applied directly to it. And that'll work for custom patches as well, as long as they're implemented correctly. Okay, let's close the game. Go to the editor, go to Stratus, and we're going to make sure everything is working correctly with the faction. So we'll just drop them in over here at the front of the airbase. Blue 4, and okay, yeah, so you can see NATO FIA, and we're third. If you want to first, put priority 1. My custom faction, we got men, custom soldier. So I'll make 1 and then copy and paste him 3 times. Put them down, and then we'll make one of them the team leader and one of them the medic, just so we can see everybody. Okay, so you see everything's working properly. You can see that the colors of the camouflage are much more washed out in the standard lighting than in the virtual arsenal, but I think it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. See him, and yeah, everything's working correctly. Alright, so I hope that really helped. That should be everything you need to know to get your faction and basic units into Arma 3. I'll be doing more videos on helmets, vests, vehicles, more advanced unit configures, so things like custom RV mats, importing Arma 2 models and things like that. A lot of other mods use Arma 2, like helmets and vests and things like that, so I'll show you guys how to do that with hex editing. And that's pretty much it. So I hope this really helped you guys, and good luck with your modding.